Good evening. Our top story this week. In Pennsylvania, a mother wins a $143,000 settlement against the child protective industry who wrongfully snatched her newborn baby back in 2010 after trace amounts of opiates were found in her system due to the mother eating a poppy seed bagel from Dunkin' Donuts before going into labor. In Tennessee, the child protective industry is hiring unqualified case managers and mislabeling them as social workers to deal with the child abuse and neglect cases. The sexual abuse of teenagers in juvenile detention facilities in the United States is on the rise, with the main culprit being between female staffers and teenage boys who are probably loving every minute of it. And in Georgia, the deaths of kids in foster care jumped 20% in the first 3 months of this year. In Brazil, police snatched the passports of a mother and daughter from Massachusetts at their father's request because she refused to let him visit with the kid due to fears that he was going to keep her. In China, a new law goes into effect that requires adults to visit their aging parents every now and then. In Hong Kong, a 6-year-old foster kid was beaten up by other kids and buried alive in a hole that was covered with a concrete slab until his foster mother finally raised the alarm 2 days later. And in Ireland, a new report is criticizing CPS agents due to their lack of understanding in regards to the issue of neglect. In India, the former foster daughter of a 70-year-old man commits suicide after her foster father and her older boyfriend repeatedly demand sex from her. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin signs an anti-gay international adoption ban into law in response to France's decision to legalize gay marriage. In New Zealand, the child protective industry admits that they fucked up when dealing with neglected children. And Scotland wants to assign a nanny state social worker to every child in the country in order to keep tabs on the child's well-being and best interest. In Canada, a group is pushing British Columbia to keep kids in foster care until they're 21 because they can't make it on their own after being booted at age 16 or 18. A young woman from British Columbia is irritated with the system after being snatched from her mother and abused and neglected more in foster care than she believes she ever would have been in her own home. A teenager who committed suicide after a life of neglect and family violence is being used as an excuse to improve Alberta's child welfare system. And in Nova Scotia, an 84-year-old man gets prison time for molesting 4 of the many foster kids him and his wife took in. In Australia, an inquiry into the child protective industry in Queensland has more than 120 recommendations to fix the problems in the system, with one of the biggest problems being that cops, teachers, and anyone else who works with children are required to report every little scrape on the knee, which is overwhelming the system and causing CPS agents to chase shadows, when fewer than 1 in 8 kids who are reported for being at serious risk of abuse are ever visited by social workers. And a gay Australian couple is arrested for sexually abusing their adopted son. In England, a mean old foster mother who beat children as young as 2 while treating her own kids like royalty escapes a jail term which saddens her victims. British authorities catch on to a new trend regarding the live online streaming of sexual abuse of children. The gag order is lifted on the name of a British foster parent who killed himself after being allowed to take in a kid while being investigated for downloading child porn. The leading British charity has called on Renfrewshire Council to examine its foster care system to try to prevent more kids from suffering abuse while they are in care. And a British social worker is caught transporting £500,000 worth of marijuana to Scotland. In entertainment news this week, a new accusation claims that Michael Jackson paid out $35 million to silence his sexual abuse victims. Charlie Sheen is asking the judge to stop forcing him to pay child support to a woman who doesn't even have custody of his kids. And the voice behind Sesame Street's Elmo wins his case and has the lawsuits against him dropped for sexually assaulting boys thanks to the statutes of limitations. In Michigan, a former CPS agent is busted for ordering more than $7,000 worth of child pornography. And as it turned out, this pervert also worked for free at a school. In Wisconsin, a foster father is caught with child porn. In California, a mother is fighting the child protective industry to get her daughter away from the sexually abusive father, even though the police are backing her side of the story. In Florida, it is determined that a CPS agent who quit under pressure last May after an infant who she declared was safe got killed and had been working for CPS for 2 years without the required certification, which is a violation of state law. And in Wisconsin, a teenager is accused of threatening his foster father and setting booby traps in the basement. In Iowa, a judge orders a mother to return her daughter to Sweden so that she can be reacquainted with the father. In Texas, a kid who was jailed for a Facebook comment he made is getting beaten up while behind bars while his parents desperately try to get his bail reduced. In North Dakota, a woman is complaining because they took her foster kids away based on a supposed false accusation. And finally, tonight in Michigan, police respond to a possible domestic violence situation after neighbors called to report record a screaming woman who was in fact only loudly pleading with her boyfriend to stop farting. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.